never done a live before, so bear with me as I am working through how to navigate this thing. And for those that are coming in, I welcome you. Thank God for you. And let's get started. So today's title of the message is called Let Go of Control. And we're going to be in the book of Exodus and the book of Numbers. Okay. So let go of control. So in the book of Exodus, you guys are aware, if you have not been, Moses. We're talking about Moses and how he was not quite able to let go of control. But we'll knock that out and take some steps to explain that a little bit further. So Moses was leading the children out of Israel. Okay, out of Egypt, excuse me, the children of Israel out of Egypt. And along the way, there are things that, of course, he is asked to do. But before he even gets there, he is resistant. God's already chosen Moses in order to go and take these Israelites on this journey that he has asked them to free them. But Moses is hesitant. He is complaining about what he is not capable of. He is talking about his inabilities, and he is always talking about what he cannot do. So the plug I want to put here is the things that you cannot do, God will. He's just asking for your obedience, and he wants you to do what it is that he is commanding, calling, and asking for you. But don't be discouraged, because he'll give you the strength if you don't have it. Okay, so you'll see me looking down at my notes. So that's all that's happening right now. So Moses, of course, we're in Exodus, and he's to lead out of Egypt the children of Israel. But the thing we want to share and talk about early on is to let you know that if you didn't know, he ended up not getting into the promised land. And we're going to talk about why. Okay, Moses did not get into the promised land, and it's because of his inability to not let go of control. All right. So in the book of Numbers, all right, we're going to be in the book of Numbers, verse 20 and 8 in this particular one, and I'm going to be reading the New Living Translation. You and Aaron must take the staff and assemble the entire community. As the people watch, speak to the rock over there, and it will pour out its water. You will provide enough water from the rock to satisfy the whole community and their livestock. Now, the reason why this instruction was given to them is because obviously they were thirsty. They had been going on this long journey. And remember, the journey wasn't supposed to take 40 years. The journey was not supposed to take 40 years to lead the children out of Egypt. The journey ended up taking 40 years because of their disobedience, because of their lack of inability to take heed to the instruction in which God said, this is what I need you to do. And every single complaint that happened, Moses would go back up to the mountain and he would say, this is what they're saying. What is it that you're asking me to do now? And God would fulfill whatever that promise was. He would provide their need, what they felt that they were deficit in, what they felt like they weren't able to do or have or get. God would meet that. Okay. So from there, all right, before he was instructed to speak to the rock, before in the journey, God had asked Moses to strike the rock. Okay. He asked God to strike the rock. And that's two different things in which he's being asked to do. And this is a part of letting go. So let's look up the description or definition of surrender. How do you surrender? Because at the end of the day, this is what God is asking for us to do. He wants us to be able to surrender to his will. So I'm going to read the definition that I feel is very strong that relates to the topic of letting go of control. All right. So surrender means to yield to the power or control of another, which can involve stopping resistance, giving up possession of something, or voluntarily relinquishing control. My favorite part of this is to yield to the power or control of another. We have to learn how to yield to the power of God. We have to learn how to yield to that. Yield means to slow down, listen, and pay attention. When we're driving, we have a red light, yellow light, and a green light, and they all have a specific meaning, right? We learned that when we were in driver's ed back in the day as a little one, as a youth, and they told us what each of these colors mean. Well, red means stop, right? Don't go no further. Don't move. Don't do anything. Green means go. All right. You have full autonomy. Go, 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 go. Yellow means you have to pause. Yellow means you have to slow down. Yellow means you have to look around and see what's happening and going on before you make a move. And what we're often waiting for and what we're often looking for is to listen to what it is that God is telling us to do. He wants us to take part in that. He wants us to be able to pause and listen for his still small voice. Because at the end of the day, we want his direction. We want his instructions. And he wants to invite you in. Excuse me, you want to invite him in so you know what it is that he is asking for you to do, even in the smallest and minute details in your life. Okay? So we've got surrender, right? We've got the definition to surrender. Okay. So we're going to keep it moving. So where we are is that Moses in this story, he gets to a point that there's so many things that have already gone on that has been challenging in his leadership role that he's been chosen for, right? So God will qualify the call, but there are still things that you're responsible to do that he's going to ask of you. And our job is to be obedient and surrender to his will and not our own. So how many of us, guilty as charged, there are things that we want to do, there's things that we want to say, there's actions and decisions that we want to make, and we have not or don't always feel like we want to involve God in it because he's going to give us the answer that we may not want to hear, right? That we may not want to hear. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, God's going to get the glory. And at the end of the day, God is going to get accomplished what it is that he's already set forth because it's his plan and it's not ours. What we want to do is be in alignment with what it is that he's asking us to do. And that is something to be said in itself. If we're a willing vessel and we are somebody that wants to be a part of what it is that God is calling us to do, we have to die to our flesh. We have to decrease so that he always is increased. And that's not always easy to do. That's real talk. So Moses wasn't able to do that in this instance. He had dealt with the complaining of the people in which he was leading out. Okay, they were all upset about the food that they didn't get. They were upset about the food they weren't used to. And when God delivered them from that and gave them the manna and the quail, and there were specific instructions about when they were supposed to pick up that food in order to sustain, because there was a time and point that after the sixth day, he wants you to rest, right? He wants you to rest on the Sabbath. He said he wasn't going to pour down anything for them, but they were disobedient. And for the ones that did pull and pick up food, it turned into maggots. It got all yucky, nasty, and icky, and they weren't able to be nourished or plenished by that because God already gave them instruction for that. And the Israelites decided not to listen yet again. We like to hold on to things. We like to have control. We like to do what we want, when we want, how we want to. And I'm not going to say that I don't do that. Absolutely. But our job, yet again, is to pause and surrender, yield to the power of God in order to do what it is he's asking us to do, or at least doing it better, because he can do it better than we can. But that's not always easy, or it's not always comfortable because we don't know what it is that God is asking us to do, especially if we just decided to do something on our own. So I'm also now going to share Proverbs 16:9. Give me one moment. So Proverbs 16:9, and we're going to be in the New International Version. It says, "In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Here we go again. I'm going to read it one more time. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. I don't know about you, but I want to be walking the way God wants me to be walking. There's plenty of times back in the day when we're growing up, we're not exactly sure which way to go. We're not exactly sure what we're supposed to do. We're not exactly sure what it is God is asking for us. We're learning, we're growing, we're listening to a lot of other noise in our ears, what society is telling us, what our parents or whoever brought us up might have been telling us. Then we're surrounded by our sphere of influence with our friends, and we start hearing all type of things, and we're not really exactly sure what we're supposed to do. But we have this thing that's called a conscience, and that conscience truly is really the Holy Spirit that speaks to us and tells us and is communicating with us about the right, the wrong, the good, the bad, the ugly, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. But we have to be able to take heed to that. And that's what a lot of control doesn't always allow us to do, because in Moses' case, when he was told to speak to the rock, out of anger and frustration, he struck it again. He was like, "Lord, I know what you told me. I know what you said. I know you told me that I should speak to the rock. But last time when you instructed me, you told me to go ahead and hit it. You told me to strike it. And guess what? What we needed came out. The water came out, and I was able to feed the community as it already said in scripture in Numbers 20, verse 8 that we read earlier. Okay. The problem with that is out of his anger, out of his frustration, out of all of that, that is then when God communicated to Moses that he will now no longer enter into the promised land that he was already chosen to do to lead them into. What am I saying? Tiff, what you saying? Okay. So what I am saying is there is three things in this particular instance that I want you to know about what happens when you don't let go of control, when you have to hold on to it. Okay. The first point I want to make to you is that there's missed opportunities. Moses missed his opportunity because he was in his feelings, because he was not able to yield and surrender at the end of the day to God's will, to his instruction. He was told, what I once was giving you, because that was already in God's plan. He was like, I'm going to let you into the promised land. He said, now you no longer can go. You're going to have missed opportunities if you cannot let go of control. If you cannot let go of what it is that you want to do, doesn't mean that you can't do it. It's just, is it in alignment with God? And are you asking for his direction? But you'll have missed opportunities. The people that are supposed to come into your life, the lives of the other peoples that you are supposed to touch, just like Moses was, you're going to miss those things. And you don't want to miss what God has for you, because if he has it for you, that means he's already prepared it beautifully for you. It's already where it is God wants it to be. You just have to walk into that. But if we can't let go of control, we're going to have those moments. The second thing is you'll hurt yourself more. You will absolutely hurt yourself way more. You'll cause more harm than good. So not only, okay, in this particular situation, the third point I had on this was you'll also hurt others in the process. Okay, so the first one is missed opportunities. The second point was hurt yourself more. You'll hurt yourself more if you don't let go of control. And the third point is that you'll also hurt others in the process. Now, the reason why I explain that is I want you to be aware that Moses not only hurt himself by not being able to enter into the promised land, but he also hurt others. The people that he was leading out of Egypt, the ones that were roaming around for 40 years with something that should have only taken 11 approximate days or so, they also were not going to get into the promised land, but their children were. They weren't going to make it either, because guess what they were doing? They were also complaining. They were also fussing and whining. They were also being ungrateful. They were also saying that I should have just stayed where I was at because this is too much. I don't like where it's going. I don't understand why Moses is doing this, why his brother is doing that. And that was a whole conversation in the tent that was overheard, and people were fussing and complaining about all of this. But guess what? It impacted them too. Where they should have been delivered, they didn't make it. Okay. So in Moses' disobedience, simply at the exact time and moment of not speaking to the rock and hitting it out of anger and frustration instead, it caused them not to be delivered and receive the promise that God had already given them. And God is about keeping his promises. He's not a man that he shall lie. We get wishy-washy. If somebody makes us uncomfortable, if somebody makes us feel a certain way, we're like, I'm backing up. I'm not dealing with that. I'm not okay with that. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't like how you did me. So now I got to do something to get you back. Okay, I have to make you feel the way that you made me feel me because it wasn't right. Well, yeah, sometimes, that's a human response. I'm not going to say that I've not been there either, but you want to have much better of a godly response. And this is what Faith Talks, Tiffany Chanel Speaks is all about. Sometimes we talk about our struggles. Sometimes we talk about our victories. Sometimes we talk about where we're stagnant and stuck and how we can't get out and can't get through. Okay. All right. So at the end of the day, letting go of control and letting God be the leader of your life, even in your small decisions, can free you. It's a whole lot easier. I will say that it's a lot scarier too, but it's a whole lot easier. Okay. Now, my last 3 points that I want to say is when you do let go of control versus when you don't let go of control. These are the 3 things I want you to take away. Okay. I want you to take away. I want you to pray about it. God might give you something different. But this is the thing that I want to make sure that I share that was given to me. Okay. The first is that it builds faith. When you let go, it builds faith. And all God asks of you is the faith the size of a mustard seed. Have you guys, if you haven't Googled it or seen one in real life, I mean, this thing is itty bitty. It is tiny. And that is all God is asking out of us because He can build from there. That's how you get your muscle, your spiritual muscle built up. No different than when we go to the gym. A lot of us always have, things that we're saying that we want to grow and get better at. And sometimes that's in our health and fitness journey. Well, I like to lift weights. And in order for me to build up to stronger weights, I've got to start smaller. I've got to start with the weights that I might not even be able to pick up at this point. And then you build and you get stronger. And that means you add more weight. That is no different than what God does to us. The stronger we get in our faith, the stronger we get in our walk, the stronger we get in our connection with Him, the more He can start trusting us with. And we start out as babies, right? He wants us to have childlike faith because we listen and we're on every word that our parents tell us, that our parents explain to us, or whoever it is that raised us or that we grew up with. But as we get older, we start hearing other things, right? So we're immature and He's calling us to become more mature. But we partner with Him in building our faith to be able to do that. Okay. Second is we rely on God. We don't rely on what it is that we see. We don't rely on it is our feelings, because sometimes our feelings will mislead us. The Bible tells us, my Bible tells me, that the heart can be wicked. And it's because it's filled with so many things. It's filled with experiences. It's filled with things that we went through. It's filled with disappointments. It's filled with hurt. It's also filled with joy. It's also filled with excitement and things that we're ready, waiting, and willing for. But sometimes we have to back away and we have to rely on God for what it is that He's telling us. And that again requires faith that is still connected. All right? Because if we rely on just ourselves, then our lens might not look the right way. Our lens could be tinted, it could be darkened, and we can't see the light. Okay? So and when you let go of control, you rely more on God. And it practices you. You learn to practice what that looks like. Okay? Now, my last point is you also grow in your walk with Christ. You grow in your walk with Christ. That's beautiful. It's no different than when we were babies. Okay? When we're babies, we don't know how to walk. We don't come out the womb just walking and moving. We get to that point. We get stronger. We learn how to lift our heads. We learn how to roll over. Then we learn how to crawl or whatever. Some babies just do some interesting stuff and they don't like quite crawl like mine. My daughter was a roller. But you learn how to move. And then you start learning how to move the right way. And then you start building the strength where you get your hands held and you're getting called. Like God is calling you sometimes, right? Come on, you can do it. You got it. You got this. You got this. And you start taking steps and then you fall. Stop. Okay. No. Get right back up. Let's try it again. And then you get a little bit closer and you get a little bit closer. That is what your walk in faith looks like with God. That is how you grow in your relationship with God. The small obedient steps that you take, He is growing you. He is building you. And He wants you to surrender. And in order to surrender, you have to let go of control. Some days I'm sure it's easy. Some days it's harder. But each time you make the choice, each time you give God your yes, He's building something inside of you. He's growing something up so that you can get to and be all it is that He is asking. All right? I appreciate you guys tuning in and stopping by. Again, this is your girl Tiffany Chanel Speaks. If this blessed and encouraged you, I ask for you to share it, like, comment, subscribe. And I also have a blog. It is at TiffanyChanelSpeaks.com. You can find your free 7-day devotional on bold faith, and you can join the Tiffany Chanel Speaks community. For those that have already joined on YouTube, have visited the website, I so appreciate it. Just being obedient to what it is that God is asking for me to do. And so I pray that you all have a wonderful day out there. You guys take care. And as always, Be blessed. I don't know how to get out of here, y'all. So, all right. You guys take care.